Oh, I'm sorry. You already restarted the. Thank you. Hello, everybody. This is the KubeVirt Weekly Community Meeting. Today is August 22nd, 2018. Jumping right into the agenda and notes. First up, a note about local storage and data volumes in 110 and 111 from David Vossel.
Do we have the document shared in the chat? I don't know. I don't remember the context.
I don't have the document. This was a pull request that was merged. That was kind of an addendum to the SSHFS or the SSH.sh script, as well as just local storage.
Is there a PR associated with this, or?
Yes, there is. Let me see if I can find it for you. Okay, sorry, did find it. Let me post that in the chat here. Pull request 1464.
Oh. Well, I don't know what am I talking about here? What was the item agenda again?
Well, no, I added this to the agenda because I thought that it was at least important to note it. That we've changed to local volumes or local for the data volume support, local storage, no?
Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. Yeah, so there was a pull request I made recently, and the second one is something that RDM followed up with that changes, if it just fixes something with SSH. So our let's see, Kubernetes 1.10 and 1.11 providers now have support for local volumes, or I think it's just called local storage. It's a storage provider that's already built directly into the provider, so we can start using PVCs, and it will dynamically create a PVC for us, and it will do that all using local storage or instant storage on the virtual machines, like the ones that are actually running our infrastructure, not the ones we create. So that's going to be really helpful when we start looking at things like integrating with CDI and creating persistent volume claims, and we want to actually go through the flow of injecting disks onto those persistent volume claims. Now our providers actually give us a way of doing that. So yeah, that was the update. We have that available now, so we can start creating PVCs. Now we can actually transfer some of the logic that we had for kind of statically creating persistent volumes to use the local storage in the future. So where we are using host path, we can get rid of that soon and transition just to the local storage volumes. Sorry, Stu, I totally didn't catch the context of what we were talking about.
No, it's all good. You know. Next agenda item, we did remove Kubernetes 1.9.3 as a provider. Anything to add to that, Archim?
Nothing really to add, because we just stopped to run our CI on Kubernetes 1.9.3, so it's not really relevant to leave it under KubeVirt repository, but if you still need to use the image for the image, you can just use it from KubeVirt CI repository, and that's it.
If we still need to use the image, how do we get it?
Image is still available under KubeVirt CI, and I think it's still available under Docker Hub, so you can just use it. Check the latest SHA hash under the KubeVirt CI README file, and just Docker push it. That's it.
Awesome, thank you. And KubeVirt 0.6.4 was tagged in the last 24 hours. Fabian did that. Just announcing that's the next downstream basically release or supported version that we have. Also, or next up, Ton Devices. This was a PR that was just merged a few minutes ago. This was just a minor bug, but worth noting. We were still requesting the Ton device, even if we did not have any networking in the virtual machine instance. And I also realized late breaking that we were still requesting the net admin capability, which you just simply don't need if you don't have networking. So those were removed, and that's been pushed. The PR is linked there, 1372, I believe it was. And next up, we have Peter.
Sorry
for
jumping in. Just a question. I wonder, I mean, that does not solve the original problem, right? I mean, the problem was that TON is sometimes not announced or expressed as a node capability.
Right. Okay, I believe the original issue you're referring to, Fabian, was on the OpenShift origin Docker image. So if you used OC cluster up to create a single node instance, there was a bug where the mount point for device plugins for the device plugin manager was not bind mounted to the host. So even though device plugins was working at the OpenShift level, it was not exposed to any of the consumers on the cluster, so it couldn't actually be used. This prevented KubeVirt straight up from running at all because we depend on device plugins entirely now. And so just having the dependence on the dev ton device prevented any virtual machine from being created ever. And that's still true if you are running in that scenario and you don't have, or you do need a network device, we still have that problem. I'm gonna have to follow up, Fabian, because I know that before I went over to DevConf, there was an upstream merge fixed. So this may no longer be an issue in future releases. So I just want to follow up and see which release that did make it into. I don't think there's any other context we're needing there, do you?
No, you're right. Thank you for reminding me of that. You're right. I forgot about that part.
Cool. Okay, so next up, I believe we have the OVS CNI plugin. Peter Horchak, take it away. Is he here? I believe he added that, didn't he?
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Got it.
Interesting. Okay, so hello again. I just wanted to announce that we created an OVS CNI plugin, and it's available under KubeVirt GitHub organization, and it allows you to connect your pod to an OVS bridge that is available on the host. We aim to use it to support L2 connectivity for VMs as soon as we support Multus. But it can also be used for overlays or routed solutions, but we aim for the L2 one as for now. And that's it. If you are interested in it, check it out and try it. Maybe open some issues, or yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And that is, in fact, the end of the agenda and notes section, unless anybody has any last-minute items they need to add. Give it 1 second. All right, well, moving on to the open floor. So I just got back from DevConf US. That was a highly successful conference. I believe this was the inaugural one in the United States, following in the footsteps of the one that's held in the Czech Republic. 3 days worth of talks, attended almost every one, so every hour there was one. So very relevant and lively discussions to be had, and I would definitely recommend this conference next year to anybody because the topics were very interesting and relevant. I haven't had that experience at every conference, so just saying that, I would give this a scintillating recommendation. My talk was a practical guide to KubeVirt. I think I can find that link there was a live stream of the entire conference, so it would actually be, 6 hours, I believe, into the day. But I will post that link once I'm not talking. And next up, we have the deprecation of the KubeVirt user guide. Gabriel, you wanted to talk about this?
Sure. Probably you already noticed that we have a nice fancy website for KubeVirt in KubeVirt.io. And since Friday, last Friday, we have finally reconciled all of the documentation that is practically mirroring our original user guide, and plus adding some more information. And the reason why it happened, because the documentation, the team that was putting together the website failed to apply the design template on our original user guide. And since it didn't match, so they decided to just copy the content and duplicate it onto the website. This means that we need to deprecate original user guide because we ended up with the two resources that are almost identical, and that's confusing users. There's a reason why I opened a pull request linked in the document to add deprecation warning and link user to the new documentation that is in the website. And we need to also agree on the way how we will handle documentation in the future, whether we'll open the pull request for documentation for the repository that's holding the website, or we will run some kind of job that will mirror the documentation into the website, or whatever. This has to be clarified in the very near future in order to make it convenient for all of us and for the users as well.
No, you're right. Having 3 different ways to get documentation is confusing and not helpful. So yeah, definitely something. I believe we're discussing this in the mailing list. Is that correct?
Yep. There is a thread on the mailing list that is dedicated to this topic, and we already received a reply from Adam, one of the author of the new website, and he thinks that he explained the reasons why he did it, and I already told actually the reason from the reply, and what I'm suggesting that there are some developers are open to keeping the documentation under the KubeVirt repository and use some kind of CI job to mirror it to the website repository in order to keep it on one place for developers. And other people are convinced that we should just deprecate the user guide and use the repository for the website instead. That's kubevirt.github.io, and keep it like this for the future. And it depends on the people who will use it and how they will figure it out. But at this very moment, I just want to raise the issue and just throw the discussion.
Awesome, thank you. And of course, we'd have to have buy-in from the stakeholders involved, especially in the KubeVirt.io website, before changing how we mechanically construct that. So, and if I recall, aren't the blog posts themselves also on KubeVirt.io? So it's not just all documentation, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, anybody else have anything to add to that discussion? And are there any more items for the open floor? Going once, going twice. All right, well, thank you, everybody. It's been a productive week, and hopefully we'll keep this tempo up. See you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.